And then I got to know a couple of her children, my age, Scott and Erica, and just a tremendous family and great Democrats. And it's just great to see her again, being here and receiving an honor. I also asked Tom and Winifred right here to look at me. I had the great pleasure, as well as Kathy, to see them all at the Shiawassee Democratic dinner a couple weeks ago. And we had a great time that evening, and of course I'm nervous. So I told Winifred if I'm screwing up or make faces at me or reassure me that I'm doing okay. So this is what I want to do. I want to talk a little bit about some things regarding the governor's race in 2010. I want to talk a little bit about the current situation in Michigan. I want to talk about rebuilding Michigan and some of my ideas. And then I want to share with you a little bit about my background. And then I want to wrap it up and have questions. But before I begin, I just got to make one other kind of fun comment. I've been to a lot of dinners over the years, especially when I served in the Michigan House of Representatives. But I have never been to a dinner where they want both your money and blood. I mean, that is real dedication. And so I think you got a tremendous chair right here. As Judy was saying, I am looking very seriously at the governor's race in Michigan. The title of my presentation actually is called Building a Better Michigan, because frankly that's what we're in the process, that's what we have to do in the state, is begin the process of building a better Michigan. And the governor's race in 2010 is going to be absolutely critical, because we have to decide who's going to provide the leadership in the state as we're in the process of rebuilding this state. I think everyone understands the very difficult situation we have in the state with the economy tanking, not only nationally, but obviously in Michigan, even prior to the national economy taking a marked downturn. With the Chrysler bankruptcy, with all the loss of jobs, it's a really difficult situation. So the election in 2010 is going to be very, very important for providing that next leader for the state. But there's another fundamental reason why the 2010 election is important, is that based upon who gets elected in 2010, they will be in charge of reapportionment in Michigan. Every 10 years we have to do a census, and the census is beginning right now. And then after the 2010 election, the people that are in power will then begin drawing the lines for both the House and the Senate districts in Michigan, but also the congressional districts as well. And a year and a half ago I was in Washington, D.C., and they were saying at that point in time they predict Michigan will lose at least one congressional seat. So we have to win the governor's race in 2010, and we have to, it'd be wonderful if we could win the state senate. They're only up once every 4 years, and so this is our one shot at winning the state senate. If we don't take control of the House or the governorship or the Senate, then the Republicans will be in charge, and then they're going to draw the lines to suit their own political needs. And so it's very important that we bear down and get involved in the 2010 election. So the way I describe what I see happening in Michigan right now is an adjective I would call numbness. I mean, I think what's happened the last 6 months has been something that nobody would have projected or expected to occur. With the collapse of the auto industry, and we haven't seen the end of it yet, obviously, a whole way of life is fundamentally changing for thousands and thousands of families in Michigan whom expected to be able to build a middle-class life around a good-paying job, thanks to the UAW and thanks to the auto workers. All that's changing. But there's also the ripple effect that goes through Michigan as well. With all those folks losing their jobs, they're going to affect a lot of other people that rely upon those those paychecks in terms of other industries. So a lot of other people, a lot of other industries are suffering as well. And then of course, as a consequence of losing your job, you may lose your home. Michigan's got one of the highest levels of foreclosures in the country. I think the most recent Reality Track statistics, and you can go on the web and look at this website, www.realitytrack, T-R-A-C. I think Michigan's number 7th in the country in terms of foreclosures. People lose their pensions. When you lose, with all the demise of the stock of General Motors and Chrysler, a lot of people's pensions are going to be wiped out as well. And then finally, something really close to myself is healthcare. I've been working on healthcare reform the last couple of years, And we have a huge national problem as well as a state problem. But this problem is only going to get worse as more and more people lose their jobs. Fortunately, we have a president that understands this, and under the old regime, if you lost your job, maybe you can maintain your health care if you're willing to pay your COBRA payments. But COBRA can become very expensive. And if you lose your job and you're relying upon unemployment to pay your rent or your mortgage, or provide food for your kids or clothes, get ready for school, paying the health insurance bill can be a very heavy lift. What Barack Obama did in his stimulus bill is offer up to pay 65% of everyone's COBRA payments. So that makes it a little bit better. Yes, we should clap. But the point is still there, is that the number of people without health insurance is going to get fundamentally worse in Michigan as well as around the country. Now, I'm not going to talk too much about the healthcare campaign that I'm directing, but I do have some literature on the table over there. I'll take 1 minute. What we're trying to do is to build political pressure from the bottom up to put pressure on members of Congress in Michigan to vote yes when the bill comes down the road for a final vote. We are in essence trying to be the field troops for Barack Obama in terms of supporting his effort to reform national health care. Now recently I had a meeting with Aletha Henry, who is going to be the new Organizing for America, the new Michigan State Director. Their top priority is also health care, so we're looking to having a collaboration between the two organizations. I want to go back a couple more points about the economy, what this means to people. I mean, the other fundamental reality is that when people lose their job, in a lot of cases, people suffer psychologically tremendously because their whole identity is wrapped up, especially for men, in terms of the work they do. So when you lose your job and you lose the whole structure of your life, it really takes a toll psychologically, and that kind of feeds back to my analysis that we're really facing a situation where people are numb in terms of the impact of what's happened, and it's continued to occur, and literally this just started happening at the end of last September with the stock market crash and all that. So it's a really difficult situation in Michigan. Which leads me to my next point, is that what are we going to do to rebuild the state? Because I think that's obviously the challenge that we all face. And I view rebuilding Michigan in terms of three fundamental components. The first one is leadership. I mean, we have to have a governor in place who is going to provide very, very strong leadership. Because of the fact that what I just talked about a minute ago, that people are numb, they're looking for hope, they're looking for a belief that things will get better. And we need to have a governor who's out there, who's laying out a plan, providing clear communication about what steps are going to be taken to move this state forward to rebuild our economy. Now, I think Governor Granholm has had a very difficult situation. I don't think it's fair to hang a lot of the problems on her. But nonetheless, what happens with most people who are not familiar with this situation, they do tend to blame the governor and the party in power for a lot of the problems that are occurring. And this goes back to my earlier point about why the 2010 election is going to be difficult for Democrats, because we're going to be faced with having to explain away our performance in the last 6 to 8 years. But that's why we have to have someone, a candidate, who is going to look out and provide that kind of leadership to move the state forward. The second component that I believe very strongly in is engaging the public. Now, we talked at our table about this component. It turns out that Judy is a student of history. She went back and got her PhD, which I think is wonderful, because I think that we can learn from history, even very recent history, which is the Obama campaign. I think we learned a lot about this in this campaign, about how campaigns can be run, but we also learned a lot about how a president can govern. And what I'm talking about, of course, is the fact that this candidate and this president has made it a critical component of their campaign to engage the American people in the process of running for office. And he continues to engage the American people in the process of governing this country. You know, during the healthcare, early on in healthcare, they set up a website where they were encouraging people to share their ideas about what should be done to reform the healthcare system. The Obama administration encouraged people to share their stories in terms of trying to provide healthcare for themselves and their families, and the struggles they've had in dealing with the healthcare system. I think this is incredibly important, and I think this is something that we have to do in Michigan in a very strong